Rio de Janeiro, often referred to simply as Rio, is a vibrant city located in southeastern Brazil. It is known for its breathtaking landscapes, samba music, iconic beaches, and world-famous carnival celebrations. The history of Rio de Janeiro is rich and diverse, spanning from its indigenous roots to its colonial past and eventual growth into a major cultural and economic center. Indigenous people inhabited the region where Rio de Janeiro now stands for thousands of years before the arrival of the Portuguese. The Tupi-Guarani indigenous tribes were the most prevalent in the area, with the Tupinamba being one of the largest and most influential tribes. The Portuguese arrived in the region in January 1502, when a group of explorers led by Goncalo Qualo stumbled upon Guanabara Bay. Thinking it was the mouth of a river, hence the name Rio de Janeiro, meaning January River, they claimed the land for Portugal. However, the Portuguese did not immediately establish a settlement in the area. In 1555, the French established a colony in the bay called France Antarctique, led by Nicolas Durand de Villegagnon. The Portuguese, concerned about the French presence, decided to establish a permanent settlement to protect their interests. In 1565, Estácio de Sá, a Portuguese military officer, founded the city of São Sebastião do Rio de Janeiro near the present-day neighborhood of Urca. The Portuguese successfully expelled the French from the area, and Rio de Janeiro became a strategic base for the Portuguese colonial administration. During the colonial period, Rio de Janeiro gradually grew in importance. It served as the capital of Brazil from 1763, when it replaced Salvador, until 1960 when the capital was moved to Brasilia. The city prospered as a port and trading center, benefiting from the export of sugar, gold, and later, coffee. Rio de Janeiro also played a significant role in the African slave trade, receiving a large number of enslaved Africans who were forced to work in the plantations and households of the region. In the early 19th century, Brazil experienced a series of transformative events that would shape Rio de Janeiro's history. In 1808, the Portuguese royal family, fleeing from Napoleon's invasion, sought refuge in Rio de Janeiro, making it the de facto capital of the Portuguese Empire. The presence of the royal family in Rio de Janeiro brought about important changes, including the opening of ports to international trade, the establishment of cultural and educational institutions, and the modernization of the city's infrastructure. Brazil gained independence from Portugal in 1822, and Rio de Janeiro continued to grow as the capital of the newly formed Empire of Brazil. The city underwent significant urban transformations, with the construction of grand buildings, parks, and public squares. Notable landmarks, such as the São Bento Monastery, the National Library, and the Imperial Palace, were built during this period. The end of the monarchy in 1889 marked the beginning of a new era for Rio de Janeiro. Brazil became a republic, and the city continued to evolve. In the early 20th century, Rio experienced an urban reform led by Mayor Pereira Passos, which aimed to modernize the city and eliminate the unsanitary conditions prevalent in some areas. Avenidas, wide avenues, were constructed, new neighborhoods emerged, and architectural styles shifted towards the Art Nouveau and Belle Époque. Throughout the 20th century, Rio de Janeiro faced various challenges and transformations. It grew in population, becoming a cultural and intellectual hub with renowned artists, musicians, and writers contributing to its vibrant scene. In 1960, the capital was moved to Brasilia, leading to a shift in Brazil's political center. However, Rio remained a prominent city, attracting tourists from around the world. In recent years, Rio de Janeiro has faced social and economic issues, including urban violence and inequality. Nevertheless, it remains an iconic destination, known for its natural beauty, carnival festivities, and as the home of famous landmarks like Christ the Redeemer atop Corcovado Mountain and the stunning beaches of Copacabana and Ipanema. Today, Rio de Janeiro continues to be a cultural and tourist magnet, offering a unique blend of history, natural wonders, and a vibrant local culture that makes it a truly remarkable city. Rio de Janeiro, often referred to simply as Rio, is one of the most famous cities in Brazil and has a rich and vibrant history. Let's explore its history from its early days to the present. Indigenous settlements. The region where Rio de Janeiro is located was inhabited by indigenous peoples for thousands of years before the arrival of the Portuguese. The Tupi-Guarani people were the most prominent group in the area. Portuguese arrival. In January 1502, Portuguese explorers led by Gaspar de Lemos arrived at the Guanabara Bay, which they initially mistook for the mouth of a river. They named it Rio de Janeiro, which means January River in Portuguese. Colonial period. Rio de Janeiro became a strategic port and an important hub for the trade of goods between Europe, Africa, and other parts of Brazil. In 1763, the capital of Brazil was moved from Salvador to Rio de Janeiro, solidifying its importance. The city experienced significant growth during this period, and many notable architectural landmarks, such as the Municipal Theatre, were constructed. Arrival of the Portuguese royal family. In 1808, Rio de Janeiro gained even more significance when the Portuguese royal family, fleeing from Napoleon's invasion of Portugal, arrived in the city. Rio became the capital of the Portuguese Empire, marking the only time a European monarch ruled from outside the continent. This event played a crucial role in Brazil's path toward independence. Independence and empire. Rio de Janeiro played a central role in Brazil's struggle for independence from Portugal. On September 7, 1822, Prince Pedro proclaimed Brazil's independence and became Emperor Pedro I. Rio de Janeiro became the capital of the newly independent Empire of Brazil. Abolition of slavery and republic. In 1888, Rio de Janeiro witnessed an important moment in Brazilian history with the abolition of slavery. The city continued to grow rapidly, and on November 15, 1889, Brazil became a republic, and Rio de Janeiro remained its capital. Capital transfer. In 1960, the capital of Brazil was moved from Rio de Janeiro to the newly built city of Brasília. However, Rio remained a cultural and economic center of the country. Recent developments. In more recent years, Rio de Janeiro faced significant challenges, including issues with crime and social inequality. The city hosted major international events, such as the FIFA World Cup in 2014 and the Summer Olympics in 2016, which led to significant infrastructural improvements. Today, Rio de Janeiro is known for its stunning natural beauty, iconic landmarks such as Christ the Redeemer and Sugarloaf Mountain, its vibrant carnival celebrations, and its world-famous beaches, including Copacabana and Ipanema. The city continues to be an important cultural, economic, and tourist destination in Brazil. Rio de Janeiro, commonly referred to as Rio, is one of the most famous cities in Brazil and a major cultural and tourist destination. Its history is rich and diverse, spanning from the indigenous people who originally inhabited the region to its colonial era, imperial period, and modern development. Let's explore the history of Rio de Janeiro. Indigenous era. Before the arrival of Europeans, the region around present-day Rio de Janeiro was inhabited by indigenous tribes, including the Tupinamba, Temimino, and Tupiniquim. These tribes practiced agriculture, fishing, and hunting, and their settlements were spread across the area. Portuguese colonial period. In 1502, the Portuguese navigator Gaspar de Lemos arrived at the entrance of Guanabara Bay, where Rio de Janeiro is located. He named it Rio de Janeiro, which means January River, as he mistakenly believed it was a river's mouth. The Portuguese didn't establish a permanent settlement at that time, focusing instead on other regions in Brazil. French interference. In the 16th century, French corsairs and traders attempted to establish a presence in Brazil, including in the area around Rio de Janeiro. In response, the Portuguese decided to found a city to secure the region. In 1565, Estácio de Sá, a Portuguese nobleman, established the city of São Sebastião do Rio de Janeiro. The settlement was fortified to protect it from French incursions. Capital of Brazil. Rio de Janeiro grew steadily and became the capital of the Portuguese colony of Brazil in 1763, replacing Salvador. The city thrived as an important port for exporting goods, especially gold and diamonds from the neighboring Minas Gerais region. Arrival of the Portuguese royal family. In 1808, during the Napoleonic Wars, the Portuguese royal family, led by Prince Regent Dom João, fled to Rio de Janeiro to escape the French invasion of Portugal. The city became the capital of the Portuguese Empire, marking a significant turning point in its history. Independence and Imperial period. In 1822, Brazil declared its independence from Portugal, and Rio de Janeiro became the capital of the newly formed Empire of Brazil. Dom Pedro I, who had previously been the Prince Regent, became the first Emperor of Brazil. The city experienced a period of growth and transformation, with the construction of notable landmarks such as the Imperial Palace, now the National Museum, and the Pedro II Theatre. Abolition of slavery and republic. In 1888, Brazil became the last country in the Americas to abolish slavery. This significant change had a profound impact on Rio de Janeiro, as former slaves migrated to the city seeking opportunities. In 1889, a military coup led to the overthrow of the monarchy, and Brazil became a republic. Rio de Janeiro remained the capital. Construction of modern infrastructure. In the early 20th century, Rio de Janeiro underwent major urban reforms and modernization efforts. Landmarks such as the iconic Christ the Redeemer statue on Corcovado Mountain and the Sambadrome, a venue for the world-famous carnival, were built during this period. Transfer of capital. In 1960, the capital of Brazil was transferred from Rio de Janeiro to the newly constructed city of Brasília. Despite losing its capital status, Rio de Janeiro continued to be a cultural, economic, and tourist hub. Modern Rio de Janeiro. In recent years, Rio de Janeiro has faced social and economic challenges, including issues related to urban violence and inequality. However, it remains a vibrant city known for its stunning natural beauty, world-famous beaches such as Copacabana and Ipanema, the annual carnival celebration, and its rich cultural heritage. Today, Rio de Janeiro continues to attract visitors from around the world, who come to explore its historic sites, enjoy its vibrant culture, and experience its unique blend of natural and urban landscapes. Rio de Janeiro, often referred to simply as Rio, is a vibrant city located on the southeastern coast of Brazil. It has a rich history that spans several centuries and has played a significant role in the country's development. Let's explore the history of Rio de Janeiro. Early indigenous inhabitants. Before the arrival of the Europeans, the region now known as Rio de Janeiro was inhabited by various indigenous tribes, including the Tupi and Guarani peoples. They lived off the land, engaging in agriculture, hunting, and fishing. Portuguese arrival and colonial period. In January 1502, Portuguese explorers, led by Gaspar de Lemos, arrived at Guanabara Bay, which they named Rio de Janeiro, January River, due to mistaking it for the mouth of a river. However, they soon realized it was a bay. The Portuguese did not establish a permanent settlement in the area until 1565, when Estácio de Sá founded the city of São Sebastião do Rio de Janeiro. During the colonial period, Rio de Janeiro served as an important port for exporting Brazil wood, a valuable resource at the time. The city grew steadily, and in 1763, it replaced Salvador as the capital of the Portuguese colony of Brazil. Arrival of the Portuguese royal family. In 1808, Rio de Janeiro witnessed a significant event in its history when the Portuguese royal family, fleeing the Napoleonic invasion of Portugal, arrived in the city. The presence of the royal court led to the cultural and economic development of Rio, with the establishment of libraries, theaters, and the opening of Brazil's ports to foreign trade. Independence and Imperial Era. In 1822, Brazil declared its independence from Portugal, and Rio de Janeiro became the capital of the newly formed Empire of Brazil. The city experienced rapid growth and transformation, with the construction of grand buildings and infrastructure projects, including the famous Santa Teresa tram and the Pedro II Theatre. Republican period and modernization. In 1889, Brazil became a republic, and Rio de Janeiro continued as the capital. The city underwent further modernization and urban development, including the construction of the iconic Municipal Theatre and the Avenida Central, now Avenida Rio Branco. The city also hosted the 1922 Semana de Arte Moderna, Week of Modern Art, a seminal event in Brazilian cultural history. Transfer of the capital and development. In 1960, the capital of Brazil was moved from Rio de Janeiro to the newly built city of Brasilia, which led to a decline in Rio's political significance. However, the city continued to thrive as a cultural and tourist destination, with its famous landmarks, including the Christ the Redeemer statue on Corcovado Mountain and the beaches of Copacabana and Ipanema, attracting visitors from around the world. Recent developments. In recent years, Rio de Janeiro has faced various challenges, including urban violence and economic inequality. The city underwent significant changes in preparation for hosting the 2014 FIFA World Cup and the 2016 Summer Olympics. However, these events also highlighted some of the social and economic disparities within the city. Despite the challenges, Rio de Janeiro remains a vibrant and diverse city, known for its natural beauty, music, carnival celebrations, and the warm spirit of its residents. Please note that this overview provides a general outline of Rio de Janeiro's history, and there are many more details and events that could be explored in further depth. Rio de Janeiro, often referred to simply as Rio, is a vibrant and culturally rich city located on the southeastern coast of Brazil. Its history is intertwined with the broader history of Brazil, from its early indigenous inhabitants to its colonization by the Portuguese, its role as the capital of the Portuguese Empire, and its evolution into a thriving cosmopolitan city. Indigenous peoples, including the Tupi and the Guanabara tribes, originally inhabited the region where Rio de Janeiro is now located. They lived along the shores of Guanabara Bay and engaged in fishing, agriculture, and trade. In January 1502, the Portuguese explorer Gaspar de Lemos arrived at the bay and mistakenly believed it was the mouth of a river, naming it Rio de Janeiro, January River. The name stuck, and over time, the settlement that developed around the bay became known as Rio de Janeiro. During the 16th and early 17th centuries, Rio de Janeiro served primarily as a port for exporting Brazil wood, a valuable resource used in the production of dyes. However, it was overshadowed by other colonial cities, such as Salvador, which was the capital of Brazil at the time. In the late 17th century, gold was discovered in the region of Minas Gerais, leading to a significant influx of people to Rio de Janeiro as it served as a gateway to the gold mines. The city's population grew, and it became a prominent commercial center. In 1763, Rio de Janeiro officially became the capital of Brazil, superseding Salvador. During the early 19th century, Rio de Janeiro experienced a series of transformative events that shaped its future. In 1808, the Portuguese royal family, fleeing from Napoleon's invasion of Portugal, arrived in Rio de Janeiro and made it the capital of the Portuguese Empire. This elevated the city's status and brought significant economic and cultural development. Under the influence of the Portuguese court, Rio de Janeiro underwent urban reforms, including the construction of grand buildings, the opening of cultural institutions, and the establishment of Brazil's first bank and newspaper. The city's port was modernized, and its status as a major trade hub was solidified. Brazil declared its independence from Portugal in 1822, and Rio de Janeiro continued as the capital of the newly formed Empire of Brazil. Throughout the 19th century, the city grew both demographically and economically, attracting immigrants from Europe and experiencing the benefits of coffee plantations and slave labor. In 1889, Brazil transitioned from an empire to a republic, and Rio de Janeiro remained the capital. The city continued to expand, and in the early 20th century, significant urban improvements were made, including the construction of the iconic Christ the Redeemer statue on Corcovado Mountain and the opening of the Sambadrome, the venue for Rio's famous Carnival parade. However, in 1960, the capital was officially moved to Brasília, a purpose-built city in the interior of Brazil. Despite losing its status as the capital, Rio de Janeiro maintained its cultural and economic importance. It remained a major tourist destination, known for its beautiful beaches, vibrant nightlife, and annual carnival celebrations. In recent years, Rio de Janeiro has faced various challenges, including high crime rates, economic inequality, and inadequate public services. Efforts have been made to address these issues, particularly in preparation for major international events such as the 2014 FIFA World Cup and the 2016 Olympic Games, both of which were hosted by Rio de Janeiro. Today, Rio de Janeiro continues to be a cultural hub and a popular tourist destination. Its breathtaking landscapes, rich history, and vibrant culture make it one of the most recognizable and visited cities in the world. Rio de Janeiro, often referred to simply as Rio, is a vibrant city located in southeastern Brazil. It has a rich and fascinating history that spans several centuries. Here is an overview of the history of Rio de Janeiro. Pre-colonial era. Before the arrival of the Portuguese in the 16th century, the region now known as Rio de Janeiro was inhabited by various indigenous tribes, such as the Tupinamba, Temimino, and Maxicali. These indigenous peoples lived off the land, engaging in fishing, agriculture, and hunting. Portuguese colonization. In January 1502, Portuguese explorers led by Gaspar de Lemos arrived at the entrance of Guanabara Bay and mistakenly believed they had found the mouth of a great river. They named the area Rio de Janeiro, which means January River, in Portuguese. The name eventually extended to the entire city. The Portuguese established a settlement in the region in 1565 as a strategic point for trade and defense. They constructed the São Sebastião do Rio de Janeiro fortress to protect the city from French and other European colonial interests. Over time, Rio de Janeiro became an important hub for Portuguese colonial administration and trade. Capital of the Portuguese Empire. In 1763, Rio de Janeiro became the capital of the Portuguese colony of Brazil, replacing Salvador. The city experienced significant growth and development during this period. The royal court of Portugal moved to Rio de Janeiro in 1808, fleeing the invasion of Napoleon's troops in Europe. This event greatly contributed to the city's transformation, bringing cultural, economic, and architectural advancements. Independence and Imperial Era. Rio de Janeiro played a crucial role in Brazil's independence from Portugal. In 1822, Dom Pedro, the son of the Portuguese king, declared Brazil's independence while standing on the banks of the Ipiranga River in São Paulo. Rio de Janeiro became the capital of the newly formed Empire of Brazil, and Dom Pedro I was crowned the first emperor. Throughout the imperial era, Rio de Janeiro experienced considerable urbanization and modernization. Notable landmarks were constructed, including the National Museum, the Imperial Palace, and the Municipal Theatre. The city flourished as a center of politics, culture, and commerce. Republic and modernization. In 1889, Brazil transitioned from a monarchy to a republic, and Rio de Janeiro continued as the capital city. However, in 1960, the capital was moved to Brasília to promote the development of the interior. Despite losing its status as the capital, Rio de Janeiro remained an essential cultural and economic center. In the 20th century, Rio de Janeiro underwent further transformations. Major infrastructure projects were undertaken, including the construction of the iconic Christ the Redeemer statue on Corcovado Mountain and the iconic Sugarloaf Mountain cable car. The city also hosted the FIFA World Cup in 1950 and the Olympic Games in 2016, further solidifying its position as a global city. Challenges in present-day Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro, like many large cities, has faced challenges such as rapid urbanization, poverty, inequality, and crime. Favelas, which are informal settlements, emerged as a result of rural to urban migration. Despite these challenges, Rio de Janeiro remains a major tourist destination, known for its stunning landscapes, vibrant culture, and annual carnival celebration. In recent years, efforts have been made to improve security, revitalize urban areas, and promote social inclusion. The city continues to evolve and adapt, striving to balance its rich history with modern aspirations for progress and sustainability. Overall, the history of Rio de Janeiro is a tale of exploration, colonization, cultural fusion, and urban development. It has shaped the city into the diverse and captivating place it is today. Rio de Janeiro, often referred to as simply Rio, is one of the most famous and vibrant cities in Brazil. It has a rich history that dates back to the early colonial period and has played a significant role in shaping the country's cultural, social, and political landscape. Let's explore the history of Rio de Janeiro. Early history. The region where Rio de Janeiro is located was originally inhabited by indigenous tribes, including the Tupi and Guanabara peoples. The Portuguese arrived in the area in January 1502 and mistakenly believed they had discovered the mouth of a large river. Consequently, they named the area Rio de Janeiro, which means January River in Portuguese. Colonial period. In 1565, the Portuguese established a permanent settlement in Rio de Janeiro, recognizing its strategic importance as a harbor and its potential for trade. The city served as the capital of the Portuguese colony of Brazil from 1763 until 1960. During this time, Rio de Janeiro experienced rapid growth and became a center for economic activity, slavery, and colonial administration. The Royal Court. In 1808, when Napoleon invaded Portugal, the Portuguese royal family fled to Brazil and made Rio de Janeiro the capital of the Portuguese Empire. This event, known as the Flight to Brazil, had a profound impact on the city. It led to the opening of ports to international trade, the establishment of institutions, such as the Botanical Garden and the Royal Library, and the arrival of European artists, scientists, and intellectuals. Independence and Empire. Rio de Janeiro played a pivotal role in Brazil's struggle for independence from Portugal. On September 7, 1822, Prince Dom Pedro declared Brazil's independence from the balcony of the Paço Imperial in Rio, becoming Emperor Dom Pedro I. Rio de Janeiro then became the capital of the newly formed Empire of Brazil, and the city experienced significant urban development and improvements in infrastructure during this period. Republican era. In 1889, Brazil transitioned from the monarchy to a republic, and Rio de Janeiro remained the capital. The city continued to grow and underwent a series of transformations, including the construction of new neighborhoods, the development of transportation systems such as the tram network, and the enhancement of public spaces. Cultural and social significance. Rio de Janeiro is known for its vibrant culture and lively celebrations. The city became renowned for hosting the annual Carnival, a world-famous festival characterized by colorful parades, samba music, and elaborate costumes. Additionally, Rio has been a center for the development of Brazilian music styles such as bossa nova and samba. Modern Rio de Janeiro. In 1960, the capital of Brazil was officially moved to Brasilia, but Rio de Janeiro remained an important cultural and economic hub. The city faced various challenges, including social inequality, crime, and urbanization issues. However, it also benefited from infrastructure improvements, such as the construction of the Rio-Niterói Bridge and the expansion of the subway system. Recent developments. In 2016, Rio de Janeiro hosted the Summer Olympics, which brought significant attention and investment to the city. However, it also highlighted social and economic disparities. The city continues to face ongoing challenges related to poverty, violence, and inequality, while also striving to promote sustainable development and improve the quality of life for its residents. Today, Rio de Janeiro remains a major tourist destination, known for its stunning beaches, iconic landmarks like the Christ the Redeemer statue, and its vibrant cultural scene. It continues to be an important center for Brazilian arts, entertainment, and sports, and its unique blend of natural beauty, rich history, and vibrant spirit make it a truly captivating city. Rio de Janeiro, often referred to as simply Rio, has a rich and vibrant history that spans centuries. From its indigenous roots to its colonial past and subsequent transformation into a modern metropolis, Rio de Janeiro has played a significant role in shaping Brazil's history and culture. Here is an overview of the history of Rio de Janeiro. Indigenous era. Before the arrival of European explorers, the region now known as Rio de Janeiro was inhabited by indigenous tribes, including the Tupinamba and Tamoyo peoples. They lived in small settlements along the coast and engaged in fishing, farming, and trade. Portuguese arrival. In January 1502, Portuguese explorer Gaspar de Lemos arrived at the Guanabara Bay, mistaking it for the mouth of a river. Thinking it was the mouth of a river, he named the area Rio de Janeiro, River of January. The Portuguese did not immediately establish a permanent settlement, but they recognized the strategic importance of the bay and began exploring the surrounding region. Colonial period. In 1565, Estácio de Sá, a Portuguese soldier, founded the city of São Sebastião do Rio de Janeiro. The settlement was strategically established to serve as a defense outpost against French incursions and to facilitate trade. Over time, the city grew and became the capital of the Captaincy of Rio de Janeiro, one of the Portuguese colonial administrative divisions in Brazil. Economic growth. During the 18th and early 19th centuries, Rio de Janeiro experienced significant economic growth, fueled by the export of gold and diamonds from the neighboring region of Minas Gerais. In 1763, the city became the capital of the Viceroyalty of Brazil, replacing Salvador. Royal family and independence. In 1808, Rio de Janeiro gained even more prominence when the Portuguese royal family, fleeing Napoleon's invasion of Portugal, arrived in the city. The presence of the royal court transformed Rio de Janeiro into the political and cultural center of the Portuguese Empire. In 1822, Brazil declared its independence from Portugal, and Rio de Janeiro became the capital of the newly established Empire of Brazil. Abolition of slavery. Brazil was the last country in the Americas to abolish slavery. The struggle for abolition was particularly strong in Rio de Janeiro, where a large number of enslaved Africans and their descendants lived. The Lei Áurea, Golden Law, which abolished slavery in Brazil, was signed in Rio de Janeiro on May 13, 1888. Capital relocation. In 1960, Brazil's capital was moved from Rio de Janeiro to the newly constructed city of Brasília. This decision aimed to promote development in the interior of the country. However, Rio de Janeiro remained an important cultural, economic, and tourist center. Modern Rio. In recent decades, Rio de Janeiro has undergone significant urban transformations. The city has hosted major international events, such as the Pan American Games, 2007, the FIFA World Cup, 2014, and the Summer Olympics, 2016. These events brought investments in infrastructure and improved the city's international profile. Today, Rio de Janeiro is known for its breathtaking landscapes, including the iconic Sugarloaf Mountain in Copacabana Beach. It is also renowned for its vibrant carnival celebrations, samba music, and the famous Christ the Redeemer statue, which overlooks the city from atop Corcovado Mountain. While Rio de Janeiro has faced challenges related to crime and social inequality, the city's rich history and cultural heritage continue to captivate visitors from around the world.